All right, let's get started. I don't have a gavel tonight, unfortunately, so I'll just be like, I don't know, I guess I'll work. So please sign with the clickers if you are a substitute. Also, please sign in on the clickers for the person you are supposed to be here for, because we're just going to use this for roll call and move straight into the approval of the minutes. So I think we have a couple more. Is there?
I'll just
All right. Okay, then we'll go ahead and move on to the approval of the minutes. Do I see a second on the approval of the minutes? Yes. All right. And
do we need the voting for this?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just gonna sign in a few people who might be late.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. All right. First of all, any questions, comments on the minutes? All right. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and do a vote. Open right now. A is for approval of the minutes. B is to disapprove. C, abstain. All right, and with all in favor, the minutes are approved, and we will move on to public comments, announcements, and events. Anybody have anything for the additions to the minutes? Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Or for like the next week minutes, actually sign.
For comments.
Yes, comments, announcements, events. Sorry, that was misleading.
Hi, please tell, I sent out, Dylan sent out a lovely email about my center project. As you all may know, like dining service does a lot. The staff, they're all awesome people, and they do a lot of hard work. Please, if you could tell your constituents, all next week, lovely senators will be tabling in the atrium in the Husk, and there will be a poster, and you can write some nice notes to the staff. It'll be every day from roughly like 11 to 1, and then from 3:45 to 4:15, kind of getting that rush from like lunch and different classes going in. So I really appreciate it for your constituents. Yeah, also we have still 2 shifts that haven't been filled yet. It's on Monday and Wednesdays from 3:45 to 4:15. If you could do them, please contact me. That would be really appreciative. Yeah. And then I'll send out an email to the people that are working currently, or that are going to be tabling throughout the week about just where to get the poster and markers and stuff like that for when they're doing it. So thank you.
Yes.
This is like, I guess just like sort of an announcement slash like, please let me know if you know that I screwed anything up with like your Nova time or like your receipts or like any one of the many other things that I've been doing this last week. It has been a hectic, and like I want to make sure that I've done everything right and I'm not like screwing any of you over. So like please just like send me an email and let me know. I want to make sure that we're all good.
Other comments, announcements, events? Yes.
Please stay for just like 5 more minutes after summer's over. I know that it's late, but please, I want to take photos of you guys so that people know who you are.
Yes.
Please come to Reform Comedy every Thursday at 7 in the SJ offices. Last week we didn't have it because of lack of quorum. This week we almost didn't have it. We had to go to the grill, find some settlers walking around because I don't know why there is no interest, and we're almost at the end of the semester. We have to do a lot of changes, so please come. If you cannot go, let me know. Send me an email. I'll try to make a new time.
AC Welch.
Yeah, shout out to Amanda, Declan, and June for, sorry, really for making it to perform. Please come. As Lucas said, we need senators to even meet and talk about everything, so please come.
Bax opens this Thursday, which is Bachelor of Arts, which will be in Faulkner, and it's a student show, so support your friend artists.
Yes.
I'll follow up question, what time is the back?
I think it opens at 4, but on Thursday, right?
Can you spell back?
BAX.
Yes.
As usual, Bob's is open Mondays and Tuesdays, 6 to 10 p.m., Sundays, 1 to 10 p.m. We have an email list now. There's a Facebook post on which you can comment if you want to get added to it, or text me, email me if you want to get added. Let your constituents know, frequent the space. We started something new today. It's called the suggestions tree, for lack of a better name, I guess. We found, so it's just like you can put a sticky note with like some kind of suggestion, and you can take a sticky note which has another suggestion. So it's like positive vibes, song suggestions, that kind of stuff. There's exciting projects that are coming soon. There's going to be an open mic on Thursday from 9 p.m. onwards. So please tell your constituents to go to that. Yeah. Yes.
Can you repeat the hours? And that's Thursday this week in
Bob's at 9 p.m. and the hours are Mondays and Tuesdays 6 to 10 p.m. and Sundays from 1 to 10 p.m.
Further questions, comments, announcements, events? All right, seeing none, we're going to move on to the budget for the all-campus events committee. All-campus events chair, if you would like to talk about these.
Okay, so, there's like a lot of events being planned right now, so I guess I'll start from the top. So the Katie DJ showcase, they're hosting a showcase, I think it's in Saints. They requested 350, got 350. Shake is having a teaching, I don't know exactly, but it's like an all-day event. They're gonna have food all day and like teaching things about Shake or whatever. Yeah, they got 539. Yeah. And then Alice, there was a budget for Alice that got passed, which is whatever day this goes to. May 3rd. So yeah, they got the $317.78 that they requested. Rocky Horror Picture Show, they had got the $99 that they requested, and then the Equestrian Club is coming to do a community event for all people, and yeah, they requested 135 and got 135, and then the repainting of flags. They want to basically just repaint it and add new murals and stuff like that. But we want to make sure that like FM improvements and like they would be okay with that first. But then if they are, they'll get the 170, and then relays. Requested a hand the 28, they got that, and then we have Sid Head, and Carpe Diem, and then somebody wanted to bring Dr. Ellen Frank to campus. So everybody's budgets got approved.
Any questions, comments on the all-campus events budgets? Yes.
What's the head money for?
The things they wanted, like I think like costumes and decorations, food, yeah, food.
You guys think that?
Oh, I was just gonna add that there's the pizza budget on that is larger than normal because after relay. So we have more pizza and then just like stuff for skits, costumes.
Other questions or comments? Any of the ACE budgets? Yes.
Just out of curiosity, what is Carpe Diem?
It's like the swim team event, like kind of how like football has like Franks or whatever. It's like that for swimming.
Yes.
So is it like a party or is it a gathering? Like
Yeah, I think it's a party with like food. It's gonna be Saturday. And I think they said name.
2 Fridays from now.
Oh, definitely. 2 Fridays from now.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to the SBC budgets that are under $1,000, or the ones that are not awaiting Senate approval. Services Chair.
We had the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Club. They wanted fees and registration fees for certain conferences that they want to go to. They're actually doing really well. I think last year they placed in a couple and the trainer won one of the competitions they went to, so they're looking to repeat that. We bought 2 keys for them to pay for shipping and all that stuff. Astronomy Club wanted a camera for imaging, and they also wanted a very tiny laptop because the way the telescope works is it can't store data on itself, so it's sort of an intermediate so that they can process the images as they cast. Any questions about those 2?
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to the ACSU CDS budget for the family dinner. Yeah.
All right. So every year, what do you say for ACSU? We try at the end of the year, we try to have an event to send off our graduating seniors. It means it's like a family gathering type thing. This year, ACSU and CBS decided to like collaborate and have like one big like just flat gathering. So right here is our very, very extensive budget. We're cooking and we're getting food catered. So like you see like our recipes, like how much we'll need there. And then I think it's like utensils and stuff. So all that's just food. Yeah, so it's our food for our big family gathering. Any questions?
Yes.
Also,
Oh, sorry. Services coordinator.
it was under 1,000, but it was just shy of the amount that we thought it would be worth it to bump it up.
Yes.
How many people you cater for?
Okay, so we say 50, but when I think about how many people are in our cabinet, how many people are in CS cabinet, and also the amount of seniors we have, like that alone is like 30 people. So we say 50, but I would say like 50 to 100.
Further questions or comments? Yes.
Where is
BCC.
this?
We're gonna be like outside, so it's gonna be like a whole thing. Like we're there.
Other questions, comments? All right. Oh, yes.
Is there any personal contribution to food whatsoever? Because it's coming out as like $20 per person, but like just food.
Personal contributions say,
I don't know, because it's just food, right?
yeah. Like money?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I know people already have like their own spices that they're using and stuff, so we do have our own ingredients already. This is just what we don't have.
Yes.
Did you look into MLC for funding?
Yeah, MLC, we were asking for something else, so we're asking you for the food. The way this event goes is we also try to give our senior stuff and like have like activities, and, like so for that end, we're going to MLC. This is the food, and then for MLC, we're going like activities and like trinkets.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll move into the vote. The vote is now open. A is in favor, B opposed, C abstain, for the total of $976.48 for the CVS ACSU family dinner. Huh? Oh, so it's a full $1,000? Okay. The vote is for a full $1,000. All right, and with 17 in favor, 1 opposed, that passes for $1,000 for the ACSU CVS family dinner. With that, we'll move on to the next budget, which is the Grill Club budget. Is there someone to present this? Yes.
Hi guys, so I'm Jamin and this is Michael, and we run a Grill Club. And you may have heard of us, you may have not. We started 2 years ago with a mission of hosting some free grilling events to kind of break up the monotony of school. And we've been kind of busy, which is why we haven't held a ton of events recently, but we kind of met and said, hey, we want to hold a lot more events. One of the biggest holdbacks is the fact that we're currently borrowing a grill from like a Grinnell resident. His name's Roger, he works at the Bear. He's been very kind to let us borrow his grill, and we grilled for Grinnell a few times. We hold the NSO S'mores events, which we're hoping to upgrade into like a full-out barbecue next year, the first year, which would be kind of cool. But the current grill that we are using, the problem with it is it's actually just not safe for the amount that we're grilling. Last year we were grilling for Grinnellian, we cooked 250 burgers, and like we're using a personal grill. So what happened was the grease pan caught on fire right next to the propane tank, and that could have resulted in an explosion. So we're really looking to get like an industrial grill that will be safe to grill with, so we can hold more events, and we've got a few things lined up right now.
Yeah, we've already been requested, like actually from ACSU and CVS to like help them. Someone also is doing a grilling event with Jomaland this month who requested that we help them. A first year reached out to us on Facebook this month and asked if we could help them. And basically like right now we're sort of an airline without an airplane. Like we don't have a grill that we can use. And we've been using a Grinnell Citizens grill, but it feels sort of inappropriate because these are Grinnell events. And like Jamin said, the main thing we want to stress is safety. So like the grill we have used in the past is this one, which sort of looks like your average, like household grill. But the biggest problem is grease collection. And so how most grills work is you either have a tray where the grease just doesn't fall into the barbecue, or you have the grease funnel into like a little bucket. And when we did that, the bucket literally overfilled because we're grilling too much for the capacity of these household grills. And so the reason we've done a lot of research, and like obviously this is an expensive grill, so ask us as many questions as possible. But one of the main reasons, so it's a flat top stainless steel grill, and one of the main reasons we want to get it is because it actually has.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
For accessibility reasons, can we get this up there somehow?
Michael, if you email me the link to sgatech@grinnell.edu, I can put it up on the big screen.
Yeah, so that'll be great.
Just Google. Oh, I should just do this.
Yeah, why don't we do that?
We're gonna do that right now. We're gonna put it up like a photo and stuff, and the link from the website, and
That's perfect.
Yeah. So actually, if I could just click on the video. So if you could go to like halfway, sure. Maybe like a little further. A little further. All right, let's just play it from here. So the biggest reason we want this grill is, I hope I didn't miss it. Is this. So the point is that when you have industrial grills, you'll actually have the grease trap that you can line with water. And so the point is that we could actually cook at Grinnellian for hundreds of people, like we have in the past, but not have it flare up and burn us and potentially cause a fire. The other reason that we want this grill in particular is because it is a flat top. It's meant for outdoor use. It has handles on either side, which you can see, which is good for carrying. Like the Grinnellian is in grass, right? So it's really hard to get the grill there. And it's stainless steel. So the point is that it's meant to outlive us. Like this grill will hopefully still be here when we're all gone. And so we think it's worth the investment to buy this larger grill now that people can use for events, and just have it be like a one-time purchase that we use for a long time afterwards.
Yeah, the actual grill at where we're shooting is that one right there. The first one in the video is a 30-inch one. This is a 60-inch one. So it has 2 propane burners, so or 2 propane tanks. You can handle both. So that way we'll also be able to cook like a lot more in a shorter amount of time. The last time our experience was it took a long time to cook the burgers, and people were just waiting in line for, I think like some up to like 30 minutes.
And this one, and the other advantage is for dietary restrictions. This one is nice because it can be divided into 2. So if we're catering to an event that would like to have like heavy vegan or vegetarian options, it's a lot easier to actually do that, and you can put up a divider as well.
What we had to do last year for vegan burgers, like at Grinnell, was we had to bake them in an oven like pre-made, so they were pretty cold by the time people got them. But this would allow us to just cook them on the fly, as people want them, which is something we're looking forward to.
All right, questions? Yes.
Yeah, so are you gonna come back and ask for the propane tanks, or like for us to fund the propane tanks? Is that your plan? Or?
Yeah, so we're gonna do that with the first event that we're gonna request for. With that, we'll be requesting 4 propane tanks because we need 2 to switch out,
right.
And we can reuse those honestly forever.
Yeah,
which is kind of cool.
And and I think how we're gonna do it too is, so I think what we're gonna do is like if someone would like to use our grill for an event, we might ask that they request just a propane refill with their event, and then that way we sort of keep the events who are using the propane paying for the propane instead of paying for it all at once.
Yes.
So I'm not a grill expert, but could you explain to us how this is going to ameliorate your problem with the grease collection? Because from what I saw, it looks like okay, you have the water line tray that's maybe a few inches deep that fills with grease, but it's still next to a propane tank. So excuse me, how do you empty the flat top grill, and just like how is it different than the bucket people are using in terms of safety and like?
Yeah, so a big thing is that the grease is going to drip into water. So immediately that's different because most grills it's just going to hit the floor of the grill directly. So on one hand that's like going to make the grill last a lot longer, but on the other hand it's convenient just because we won't have a thing where it's overfilling or the bottom is lining with grease, because what we can do is we can really quickly, if we see it's getting full, just take it out, unpour it, put it back in with more water.
The biggest difference is that the one we used last year, the grease trap, was this big. So if you're grilling, it's like this big. Yeah, so that's why it overfilled.
Like a size of a candy bar?
Yeah, pretty much. Like a size candy bar. And it's just like the grease traps are a lot bigger, so we can handle the amount that we're actually making.
Yes.
So I have a couple of questions. One, where do you plan on storing the grill when it's not in use?
The first question is, yeah, I think there was a place in the cart, the SGA inventory.
So navigating, it's like a difficult space to access. I think with something that big, because it is down in the pit, so you have to like go through the door and then down to the inside. And that would lead to my second question, like, where would you? I'm not sure that we can store propane in the dorm halls. And so I think like in terms of acquiring using propane, I think it might be better if we acquire a tank. Like, it's not great for like financial longevity, but it's better to acquire a tank, use it, and then return it as opposed to storing it on campus. Or perhaps like a discussion with that then would be like an appropriate way forward, just to like make sure that's like safe and okay.
I think discussion with FM might be best because the propane tanks are actually pretty weather resistant. So I mean, if there's a place that we could keep it like chained up outside, maybe that's safer. We'd be open.
We know that Bear like has propane tanks that they keep outside as well. So we can just ask Roger to maybe store it there.
And then the next one, I guess you wouldn't need a grill cover if it's storing inside. So I guess that answers that question. But then my last question is, so you're talking about other people being able to use the grill, which is great. Would you be able to kind of like sum up in the same way that like Freesound trains people in order to use their equipment, would you be able to do something similar for the grill so that like people could use it, but only if they go through like training with you all first?
Yeah, we were thinking we could host something next year, where it would like another important part is like using the grill, but also like how to like clean it afterwards, because that's like the boring part that no one wants to do. That's really important for grill maintenance. We really want to hold like a course. If people are going to use it, they should also learn how to clean it and take care of it as well.
I've also been I've been a student leader since first semester, my first year, and I've taken ServSafe training as well. I've been certified through the whole process, and so I've also learned a lot about food safety that we'd be sure to tell them. It's tiny, but we're also requesting $10 for a meat thermometer too. which is part of the Serve Safe. So in addition to grill safety, we'll be also telling them about food safety.
Would you be willing to, because we can't always be guaranteed that, like, future people who run Grill Club will have like the same expertise. So would you be willing to kind of like draft that in a document in some capacity that like SGA can go on to, that way
Yeah,
we'd have the same resources for future.
Of course, yeah.
Any questions? Yes.
I have a question like about the structure of Grill Club. So people reach out to you, how do you schedule events? What type of events have you done in the past? And like, what do you guys get out of it? Like, do clubs pay you, or is this just something you guys do for fun? What's your?
that's a really good question. We just, it's all volunteers. We like grilling, and part of our original like motto is good vibes, good bites, good times. So we're just all doing it for fun. Like clubs don't pay us, they just reach out to us, and if you can make it work, like, I mean, there'll be weekends, right, where we're just getting insanely busy. The two big events that we've hosted in the past are like the NSO sports event, as well as the Grinnell. And we're trying to like expand our repertoire going into next year, especially because now that we have a lot more time since we're fourth years, we really want to give back. And that includes also like recruiting more like first and second years to join the club to kind of like carry on the events and stuff as well. So.
And we're sort of in the early stages because we, we haven't had our own grill before. But I could foresee a capacity of Grill Club like in the next few years, where maybe once we have this grill and it becomes more popular and people want it to be, like we could actually become something like Free Sound or something like that, where we are more of an established thing. But right now it's just volunteer work.
Nice.
I'll go with you, Paul.
Senator, forgive my naivety. Can you explain why you can't just like pause the grilling for a minute or two and like empty out the tray and then go back to grilling with the normal thing?
No, it's a good question. Yeah, so like the small one that we were using, the problem is the collection so this one has a tray that lines the entire span of the grill. The problem is most of them have like a ramp system that will empty into a small bucket.
Right.
So even if you are emptying that bucket, which we tried to do, the problem is you're still lining the entire bottom of the grill with grease. And so because it collects into the ramp.
Okay.
And so when you're cooking for a long time, that will cause problems because a normal household grill is meant, even the one that the football team uses, it's meant to cook for 20, 30 people because you're not going to get that much grease. But the moment you're cooking 150 hamburgers, you're lining that ramp with way too much grease, and that causes a hazard. Yeah.
How long does it take to clean out the lined grease on the ramp?
You would need to let the grill cool down. And so if the grill's at 400 degrees, like it would take a few hours to let it cool down sufficiently so you can actually clean the grease.
Yeah, we actually did empty it out a few times while going to Grinnell, and it wasn't the best idea because the grease was really hot. So we just like prefer not to do it that way. We're supposed to go with it.
Other questions or comments? Yes.
So would the grill be owned by Grill Club or by SGA?
It would be, I think everything is owned by SGA that's purchased through services, but we would be in charge of like this. So like we're happy to lend it out to other people, but we want to make sure first that they know how to use it safely and maintain it. Because like the biggest thing we want to like avoid is lending it out to someone who doesn't take care of it and trashes it and then like gives it back to us with like grease everywhere. And so we're going to make sure that when we lend it out to people, they know how to take care of it and clean it. But it is still, I think, SGA's grill, right? Because SGA is buying it.
Do you have a
Yeah,
service coordinator?
just to answer that, procedurally, we do buy things for clubs. We buy telescopes, we buy appliances, but yes, they are formally owned by SGA, but they are managed by those groups.
Other questions? Yes.
Do we have an idea about like the service, or this is a services, this is SPC, right? SPC spending for the semester?
Why, yes, with the species spending, sure.
There's a lot of that.
Is that?
Yes, that's what I wanted to see. So we are overspent. And does this, for this week's blue line, does that include Grill Club and ACSU?
Yes, yes it does.
Other questions or comments? Yes.
I guess there's only like a couple major events every year, and like most of the school year, you know, it's gonna be too cold to be grilling like from mid-October all the way to like now. It's a little like kind of cold. So I'm just wondering like how long until it pays for itself versus if you like maybe rented like a large grill for like the couple events you had here. I'm just like trying to think about that, and also like the fact. Yeah.
I think it's worth noting that like we've only had a couple events because we haven't had a grill. Like 3 different people, and there's actually an event that is on the 28th funded by the Wilson Center who would also like to use our grill that I didn't mention earlier. So I think having this grill will open the door to more events. And it's also worth noting, if you host 2 or 3 events, the grill will almost sort of pay for itself. Like a few larger events have been like, I know that the Chic event is catered by Chong's this time for the teach-in. And I mean, if you think about the surplus that you're paying these restaurants to deliver the food, and like, you know, every time you order Pizza Ranch, I don't think it would take more than 10 events, like earning $100 of, you know, like saved money in event, or 15 events to pay for it. So I think it'll pay for itself pretty quickly, especially, you know, with the grill lasting several years.
AC Welch.
Motion to previous question.
I see a motion to previous question. I see a second. We will open up the votes on the motion to previous question. To be clear for substitutes or anybody who doesn't know, motion to previous question is a vote on whether to end the discussion and move into the final vote on this request. So a vote on whether to stop discussing and vote. A is in favor, B opposed, C abstaining for the motion to previous question. And the motion to previous question passes, and thus we will open up the polls again for this time the vote on the budget of $1,915.13 for the Grill Club.
I don't put it on the minutes if you press D, but just know that I know that you press D.
We're just waiting on one more. We can all vote. And that budget passes. So the Grill Club's $1,950.13 is approved. With this, we'll move on to the next budget, which I believe is the Grinnellian, but I don't think that's on the agenda. But yeah, we'll be moving up to the next budget, which is the Grinnellian here for total. $3,532.98. All right, is there someone here to present this?
Can you like zoom in or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, the first page is all we need. Okay, so based on discussions last time, I communicated with Sophie, and I called up John's, and I found out that they do the crispy fried tofu, and that's why there's 2 exclamation points there. Everything that has an asterisk is what I've added since last time. And then the strike through on the 3rd and 4th item is the reduced quantities on those. So this is a change in budget since last time. I think we're a little more than what we asked for last time by $30 or so. That could also be because I've added utensils for a little bit. And then there's 2 asterisks on the sauteed snow peas because I don't know what an appropriate amount to ask for is, but also there's a concern of what is the intersection of people that are gluten-free but also not vegan. Should the gluten-free option also be vegan? Because I think the sauteed snow peas comes in a white sauce, which is why it's gluten-free, because anything that has soy sauce is not gluten-free. And I'm not sure whether there are dairy products in the white sauce, so I would have to check, and if gluten-free people are also vegan, then we have a problem. And apart from that, I think everything else is pretty self-explanatory. I cut down on the egg rolls and crab rangoons and made space for the tofu. And yeah.
Questions, comments? Yes.
I'm curious why you cut down on the egg rolls and the crab rangoons if we're adding an option for people who wouldn't have been able to eat those in the first place.
Can you clarify?
Yes, like if we are adding food for vegan and gluten-free people, then why are we taking away food that they couldn't have eaten? I don't like that.
Oh,
adding
because everybody can eat crispy fried tofu. So
Okay.
there's a huge amount of crispy fried tofu. It's like 2 whole trays. So and everybody who's vegan gets first preference, but also like people who aren't vegan will also be able to eat the crispy fried tofu. And like I didn't want to ask for too much money, so I had to take from somewhere. Are you suggesting that I should take it from something else or just added that amount?
I mean, I didn't get to go to Grinnell last year. How many people are you sending?
How many people show up?
300.
Like yeah, over the course of like 7 hours. It's a long event, and we always run out of food.
Okay, if we always run out of food, then I would be comfortable leaving like at least 3 orders of egg rolls and 3 orders of crab rangoons, or 4 orders of egg rolls because those are a little bit more substantive than crab rangoons. I just think that we should be, because I'm also worried about people then running out of that food and then everybody going for the vegan option.
Cool.
Just to be clear, am I hearing a motion to amend?
I'm putting it on the table for discussion.
So, yes.
Sure, I'm
Okay.
making a motion to amend the budget to have 4 orders of egg rolls.
All right, there's a motion to amend the budget to have 4 orders of egg rolls, adding 2 orders of 24 egg rolls. Do I see a second to that amendment? Yes. And we are now in discussion of the amendment. So just to be clear, everyone, in this time we are not discussing the agenda at large, only whether or not there should be the addition of 2 more orders of egg rolls. That is the only thing that is open for discussion. Yes, we'll start with you as the budget bringer.
2 things. I was being conservative in my estimate because there are also going to be 49 pizzas. That's a lot of There's a lot of pizza, and there will be vegan and gluten-free options in that anybody who's not vegan or gluten-free is guaranteed to not eat. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. And also, I think Grill Club might apply separately for funding based on how their initial budget goes, which is passed. So they'll probably also grill at the Grinnell. That might provide some more options.
Yes.
Yeah, in response to that, we were just waiting for the grill to pass, and it did, so we will be requesting the budget for the grill.
Further questions or comments on this amendment? Yes.
So it would still be under budget from like what we spent it last year, right?
Yeah.
If we added the 2 more.
Yeah.
I mean, like added egg rolls.
Yeah, we'd be under budget by $200.
Yes.
Motion to vote to add the egg rolls.
All right, I see a motion to previous question. Is there a second? Yes. And with that, we will open up for the motion to previous question on the amendment. We need 2 more votes. Please, everyone, vote on the motion to previous question. And the motion to previous question passes, and we will now vote on the amendment. All right. This is the amendment to change from $3,532.98 to $3,584.88 with the addition of 2 orders of egg rolls. Please vote. A in favor, B opposed, C abstain.
Just abstain for them.
Yeah.
Let's give them a moment.
Hit that C button.
Yeah.
Just waiting on one more. You could all please vote. All right. And the motion to amend passes, and this budget is now for $3,584.88. Are there any further questions on this budget as a whole? Yes.
Motion to previous question.
I hear a motion to previous question. Is there a second? Yes. And we will open up the polls on the motion to previous question on this budget. Vote on whether to vote.
Okay, cool, so we were.
One more vote. Please, everyone vote. Please. Just gonna hold it open for another, yeah. All right, and this budget passes unanimously at $3,584.88 approved for the Grinnellian. All right, if we can all simmer down a little bit, skip a little out through. Next, we'll be moving on to the next budget, which I believe is Green Fund. Yes, the Green Fund budget, for which, yes.
Hi, I'm Rachel. Actually, a presentation.
Oh, yeah. We will pull it up.
But this is for, I would say, probably our biggest project this semester that we've been working on for a while to get industrial composting on campus. So right now we have composting in farmhouse, Grinnell College Garden, and we also compost in the dining hall, but none of it is industrial compost. So basically industrial composting is like more controlled conditions than just your traditional garden composting. And so the main thing this is going to let us recycle is things that have gotten covered in food or grease and things that are made of plant-based plastic. So this is adding on to our current composting systems, but not replacing them because we do like how the current systems, the compost is like staying in the local community and going to local farms and or being used directly on campus. So this is just a list that the provider that we will be working with gave us on what can be industrially composted. And it's basically anything that's biodegradable, so it comes from a plant or animal base. And then this is just a little bit more about the company. They're located in Eddyville, Iowa, and the contracts that we've been discussing, they would come and collect it once a week. They'll also clean and deodorize the containers in the warmer months so that they don't smell. And all of the compost that they make at their facility is sold, well, 95% of it is sold to small-scale farms that are, I think, within 30 miles, and then the rest of it goes to homeowners and landscapers. And they will also provide us with tonnage reports, which we will use to gauge the success of this pilot project when considering its future. And so these are the collection points that we've been talking about are one bin in the grill, which is the image on the bottom, which has already been ordered through Ali Rogers is doing a separate project that was going to just feed into the stream in the dining hall, but then when we realized we were both working on these projects, we're going to mix them now so that plant-based plastics will also go in that bin. And then we're also going to put these roller bins in the north and south campus logias, and then between the JRC and Museer, there's like a solar powered trash compactor, so we can meet in that area would be good. And then the people running this program would mainly be the compost coordinator, which is an existing student position that's through FM. And then this is the actual dumpster that we would be getting from them. It would go like by the loading dock and by the JRC next to the recycling bins that are already there. And we've already cleared that with FM and with dining services that it could go there. And then this is our promotional plan, which is a really important part of this project because we really want to avoid contamination of the composting stream because it obviously runs in the composting. And if there's too much, when I say contamination, I mean like trash or things that aren't able to be composted that get into the compost bins. So we want to just really hit the promotion really hard of the system. And so this is how much money we're asking for. So we would be doing a 40-week contract, and it's going to be partially funded by the Sustainability Committee, and then Green Fund is the one who would try to fund $3,500.
All right, so are there any questions or comments? Yes.
So if this gets approved, when would you start it? And I'm asking just because summer's coming up and there won't be as many students on campus, so would you consider starting it like next school year, or would you want to start it immediately?
Yeah, I need to see how soon they would be able to start it, but basically we can like cancel pickup if we don't want it during break, so that's kind of what we're planning on. But I was talking with Chris Barrett, who works in FM, but they would probably use the system also for like commencement picnic and like large catering events throughout the summer, and so that's why it's partially funded through the Sustainability Committee, is that like not just students would be using it, and there's some stuff during breaks that would be using it as well.
And if you cancel like pickup, is it still 125 a week?
No.
Okay.
Further comments? Yes, Senator Fonda.
I thought that last year y'all did like a small like pilot for having the little like compost things, and it didn't, I don't know, people didn't use it as much. So why should we have like a full scale? Like I'm all for this, but like the pilot, it seemed like not many people were using it, and I understand like you guys will have like the postering for it, but
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I feel like that program actually is pretty well used, and then the main thing that I want to capture through this is the plant-based plastics we're getting out of the grill. Like almost everything at the grill is industrially compostable, but not regularly compostable, so I really feel like the main source of waste for this stream is going to be the bin that we put in the grill, because almost everything that's going in the trash right now in the grill could be being composted.
Yes, Senator Dewey.
Yeah, I want to, kudos to you, and I'm glad that you're doing this project because I've been seeing this need, and I'm really glad that you're taking on this. But for those of us that are a little bit unclear about, I mean, I was on Green Fund, so I should remember this, but I don't. But I thought that Green Fund has its own budget. So is that true, or must you go to SGA to request things over 1,000?
No, this is coming out of our budget, but we just need to get Senate approval because it's over $1,000.
Yes.
Are you able to put these collectors in like inside? Like, could you be able to put one like by like the grills recycling and trash bins, or no?
Yeah, so the one that I showed that was like metal and gray and kind of matches the bins that are there right now, that one will be inside, and the other three will be, well, two of them will be outside, one of them will be in the South Campus building.
Other questions or comments? Yes.
I'd just like to thank you for like coming up with this idea and like pushing it forward, because the amount of waste this school produces is unreal, and I know it's been like difficult trying to navigate with dining and other people on campus to get food compostable items, and so like this is a good alternative to like, because you can like do pizza boxes, and a lot of that events are funded by pizza, so it will make carrots better. So would there be any chance of like getting them in like other spaces like Gardner, Harris, and places where there is like large amounts of like food?
Yeah, so the bins, the ones that I showed that are orange, they're on wheels actually, so they don't really need to be like empty. You just need to have them at the dumpster when they come and pick it up. And so I think part of the expansion of the project would, and we can get I think as many of those as we request from the company without increasing the weekly fee. And so I think it would be a good system to set up if we could have one just like at events where there is a lot of pizza. It would just be finding someone and possibly the compost coordinator into it, but they have a limited number of hours per week. But they could definitely like take it in there and then take it to the dumpster at the end of the event.
And do you know who would be paying for it in future coming years? Would that fall under like sustainability committee then taking on like the full fund, or?
So sustainability committee doesn't have like an allocated budget. All of their budget comes from donations that have been like bookmarked for sustainability. But Chris Barrett is hoping that if it's successful, it would be incorporated into the FM waste collection budget.
Yes.
So as I said, I love this project, but I feel like there's like a little splinter in my love for it, because I feel like it's like an imposition that shouldn't be on the student body and on our student activity fund and all that. to pay for these things that this institution should pay for out of whatever money they have. So can I ask what efforts has Green Fund made to ask administration if they can pay for industrial composting? And what was their response if you did?
Yeah, so Green Fund's mission is sustainable pilot projects, and really nothing on this scale has ever been attempted at Grinnell before. So, I mean, in my mind, it's like a perfect fit for Green Fund, and if it goes well, I definitely think that's a really good chance of being institutionalized, because I think a lot of our peer institutions are already doing it, and I think that Grinnell would love to like oh, and we invested in compost too. But so I talked to Chris, and I mean, I just don't think that there's like administrative budgets for this sort of thing in general.
Thank you.
Casey Welch.
Motion for discussion.
Second from Senator Benito. And polls are open on the motion for previous question. Very good. Very good. And that passes, and thus we will move on to the vote for $3,500 for the compost. Okay, those in favor, be opposed, be abstained. Please vote. Just waiting on one more. We can all please vote. All right. And that budget passes unanimously. $3,500 from Green Fund. Up next is okay, on the reform for pronouns in the SGA Constitution, which is being brought by President Becker.
Hello. So I think what we're going to do instead, I've forgotten that we used to do it this way, but I'm just going to kind of present and field some questions on these things. And then we're not going to vote today. We'll give everyone a chance to kind of think about it, talk to your constituents, read over the wording, and then we'll have a final vote next Sunday. So the first here is kind of a subsidiary element of the later change. When Quinn and I looked through the Constitution for some potential revisions, one thing we noticed is that the object is kind of really two separate statements smashed into one, Article 2 being the object. One being the first sentence being our mission statement, which is rather misaligned. And then you think a mission statement would say, would be ranked, like the things that we do would be ranked in terms of like their importance. And so like the first thing it says is SGA shall allocate student funds, which is something we do. But I feel like representing students should be the first thing we mention. So that was an aspect of that revision. Additionally, kind of clarifying that we don't exclusively represent students to college administration and faculty and the board. SGA represents students in all sorts of other capacities, so why would we limit it to those? We're kind of the big changes there. And so then splitting off the latter part into Article 3, which would be our accessibility and inclusivity clause within the Constitution. And then one thing we were kind of talking about as we were doing this was the necessity of co's as our gender-neutral pronoun within this document, considering that in no other documents that SGA uses either internally or externally do we refer to positions as co's in a gender-neutral format, but rather just use they and theirs, or just they. And so one thing we discussed as a possibility is in order to, we could change everything we publish to say co's, or we could just kind of change our guiding document to be more accessible to the populace which we represent, and just easier to kind of read by using they as like our gender-neutral pronouns, which is something that we do normally in our everyday lives anyway. And so before that seems like kind of a big change to the entire document. And so I'll just kind of walk through the three propositions I have here. But if anyone has any questions about that, I'd encourage you all to kind of like take the week to think about whether or not like co and co's versus they is an important distinction, or if we should just leave co's. Yeah, I don't know if anyone has any questions immediately. Yeah.
did they, was it always code?
At least since 2003. That's the oldest constitution I have is 2003.
Wait, can you just like rephrase, you want it to be they instead?
Yeah, so like, every time we say code, we would say that, because they can be singular or plural, right? And so this was kind of our initial position was like, oh, we should maintain code and code so we can maintain that clarity. But I think like the document can be worded effectively so as to like understand that like, if you're specific within your wording, you can tell whether or not it's singular or plural, you know, from the context of the sentence. And so like revising the document to reflect that.
Question?
Well, there's no vote, but I'll consider a motion to end debate. Yeah. So I see a motion to end debate. Do I see a second? Yes. And this is a vote that requires 2/3 majority to pass to end this discussion. Yes, this is a vote. Just one more vote. All right. And yes, this discussion is ended. We will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the changing the name of administrative coordinator to chief of staff.
Yep. So I was out of town all week, wasn't at Reform. This is something that was discussed at Reform. My understanding is that the administrative coordinator, just to be more consistent with the American political system, a lot of other political systems, and like most student governments, a chief of staff is like more fitting of the position, and also we've had the nomenclature makes it clear for some of our paid, non-cabinet, non-senator, SGA staff members, who their contact is on cabinet. I recognize there were some concerns raised when I was gone in Reform about the potential hierarchical nature of the name. But yeah, I think the big reason why I propose this is just to be consistent with other student governments, and also just makes more sense to the student body as to what this position does, because I think like a large part of the student body has like a canonical and contextual understanding of what that position entails. Yeah, any questions?
Questions or comments? If there are none, we'll move on to the next item. But
Are we voting on this?
no, this is just another. All of these next items are all discussions. Yes.
Yeah, I didn't love this one. I feel like chief of staff is someone who sounds like they're not a resource to me, but rather someone who's kind of like walking around telling me to do things, which is like perhaps true to the nature, but also like I don't love that as like student at large. Like I think the perception of that is kind of a tricky one. And I don't really care about being consistent with like the government. That's not like a rhetoric that appeals to me. I think we can do things our own way in a way that makes us.
So I was really like I was not at Reform, nor was I like really part of this decision beforehand. But I don't know if y'all watch The West Wing. I love The West Wing. I also love Leo Fieri. I know that we're not basing our student government off of The West Wing, but like I would not be mad if like next year, for instance, was our Leo Fieri. Like I kind of like the feeling of that because like I get what you're saying about like not feeling like a resource, but I think it's all about the framing. Like if we frame the chief of staff as a resource, or I'm sorry, like administrative coordinator still. But if we were to like frame that person as a resource, it just like I think that would be fine in like changing the connotation of the word in a way that is more positive. But I also do think that like it is fitting to the role to call this person the chief of staff, just because they do a lot of like miscellaneous things that keep everything running behind the scenes in a way that is similar to what is the plural? Chiefs. Whatever, of staff.
Yes.
Unrelated to any other comments, I want to add my 2 cents that a lot of what I hear from my constituents and the student body at large is that SGA sometimes has like an air of pompousness that's kind of unnecessary.
I think this might add to it, so I'm going to voice my dissent in it, just for that reason. That's literally the only reason. So, yeah.
Did I see a hand somewhere over here? I'm sorry, I thought. No? Yes?
I'm also slightly concerned about just, like, the title chief, like, in general, I think has certain connotations and like, racially motivated, and just, like, in general, like, the word chief is just not, doesn't really sit very well with me. That's all.
Yeah, I'm also just gonna vote like very personally. Chief of staff just immediately makes me think of the American government and just makes my skin crawl for like those reasons. Like maybe surface level, maybe not.
Then to be actually role the position, like doing a lot of miscellaneous stuff to keep things running, sounds, in my opinion, more like an administrative coordinator, right? Someone who's coordinating on the details, and like a chief of staff who's only concerned about the staff.
Any further comments, questions? See, yes.
Can I ask Dylan what you think?
Yeah, let's say my biggest concern would probably be related to like Mary's critique about the maybe it being too sort of like, I don't know, formal sounding, something like what Mary said. What I like about the potential name change is that I think it is more descriptive of what my job is, and probably would stick better to people who aren't involved in SGA. I have close friends who don't know anything about SGA, know I'm in SGA, who have no idea what my job title is, because it's like a very, it does not seem like it's like bland and jargony. So that's sort of, I guess, a pro and con.
Can I also just like a suggestion maybe? I think it's fine to say like of staff, and like I agree that changing the name can help help describe it better. Can I suggest maybe like head of staff or director of staff? I guess, yeah. Just.
Another suggested staff director. Come for form.
Any other comments, questions? Yes?
Motion to postpone this vote until.
Oh, this is not vote, this is only discussion. Sorry, it still says vote up there like the other things, but this, along with the splitting of the object of the SJ Constitution, are just discussions keeping with our typical practice. Seeing none other things, all right, then we'll move on to the next item, which is the splitting the object of the SJ Constitution into two parts. I believe this is also President Becker.
Yeah, this is I kind of hit on this in the 2 points ago, but I really like the idea of us having just a mission statement in our document and a mission statement in general. We have like part of that in our object, but then it like kind of segues into like our statement of like inclusivity and accessibility, which I believe deserve their own line. But yeah, no, effectively it's currently just Article 2. Like what this amendment is shifting into Article 2 and Article 3, and then shifting the subsequent articles or incrementing them accordingly. Just Article 2 would then become our mission statement. There should be our one-sentence object and be well related to what we do. Article 2 and 3 would just be the highlighted bits shifted down. Sorry, Article 3 would just be the highlighted bits shifted down. Yeah, no, I mean that's basically it.
Further questions, comments on this? Yes?
This version is the version that we sent back from the reform committee. The last sentence on the Article 3, the gender neutral pronouns was added by us. So in the original change, it's not there because they actually want to change co and co's to they.
Anything further? Seeing none, we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is another discussion topic on the ambiguity in the SDA Constitution surrounding split term cabinet positions. I believe this is brought by our reporter.
Yeah, I believe you got an email with like the relevant articles on the Constitution that we should take a look at. We don't want to rush this discussion, so we have a timeline. We're going to bring it back next week and the week after that. So this week we want to like raise some like thoughts and concerns about it. We want to give like a week for you guys to like talk to your constituents and like come back next week to like final thoughts. And like one thing that we're talking about in reform committee is that possibly we're gonna have to like make distinctions between cabinet positions. Some are gonna be able to be split positions and some are not. Like how we're gonna do like assistant treasurer or so we're probably gonna have to like make this kind of distinction. So we're gonna discuss this next week, but today we just wanna like raise your like initial thoughts about like split positions, like pros, cons. We wanna like ask people in the cabinet to like better like I don't know, describe their positions so we can have like we can make like informed decisions. And then 2 weeks from now we're gonna have like just the voting, and we need 2/3 of the Senate to approve it so we can send it to the student body because it's a referendum. So yeah, you guys, any questions, thoughts, anything in general?
Comments, questions? Yes.
I wanted to ask, like, I think Concerts Chair Christensen, like, has talked a little bit about that, like, split positions was kind of, would be okay for concerts, but did they speak to that?
Concerts Chair Christensen, if you would be willing to talk about the split position in the Concerts Chair position specifically?
Right now? Or
If you would like.
yeah, I think that the split position works really well for concerts chair because of the work that's necessary to do not only during the semester but in the weeks leading up to the semester. It's pretty easy to feel like I'm feeling burnt out after the brunt of this year. And I think that having that position split would help alleviate some of that burnout and make students' lives a little bit easier. I also think that, like one of my goals in concerts has been for the committee has been to teach as many people as many different things as they can regarding how concerts runs. And so there are a lot of people who know how to do a lot of different stuff and can bring different elements to the table depending on what their strengths are. So those are some of the reasons that I think concerts committee or concerts chair, the position can be split with little effect to the performance of the committee.
Yes?
Yeah, I just wanted to weigh in. I think for me, ASN concerts are like pretty easy to argue for split position. There's a lot of like structural things in place for the two cabinet positions that make it easy for them to make quick transitions into the next semester just because of the nature largely of their work. Outside of building relationships, the day-to-day can be sort of learned pretty quickly. I think for services in DOC and AT, that's a more detailed conversation to have. For AC Chief of Staff also, I think you can make a case for a split position, but that's also a more nuanced debate. I think also other things to consider are, even if you do make a case for a split position for, say, ASN concerts, then there are things to think about in terms of when are they coming back. Like, I think training is an important consideration, and our cabinet is definitely trying to work around that. And we've got lucky in the sense that we've got coffers, but it's difficult to say that every cabinet will have that. The second consideration I would say, and I don't know how this will be part of the Constitution, but is to think about like what like a difficult choice that presented to cabinet elects in this aspect is, say that you have, like, you're saying that you can't have split positions for, let's say, services, for example, if that's the conclusion we come to. And then we have like 4 people apply, and 2 of them are going abroad different semesters, and the other, they're collectively they're gonna make better services chairs in the cabinet elect's position, opinion, than the other 2 candidates. What happens in that kind, like how do you exercise discretion in the nomination? Do you present that difficult choice as part of the nomination to Senate, or do you sort of place that burden of responsibility on the cabinet elects to make that choice? Do you restrict it by saying that you cannot even apply if you're going abroad, and risk excluding a certain population? And these are, I think, important nuances in this debate to think about.
Other comments?
I just want to remind you guys that the change we approved has like a sunset clause. I don't know exactly how it's called. So by the end of this semester, we're gonna come back to what we have right now, that are like the second and third slides in this presentation. So we do have to make changes because a lot of people said that, oh no, it's so confusing, the constitution is so bad. So I would like to know exactly what is confusing, what is bad, what do you think should be changed in any way, and then how do you think we should change it? So like some people said the term of office is confusing, some people said the bylaws is confusing because the bylaws they said that you can apply jointly, how do you change it? I don't know, yeah, but I don't want to take a lot of time also. If you guys want to just discuss next week, come like more prepared, it's up to you.
Yes.
Can we go back to the schedule? With the timer? Can I ask that senators and other people who are interested in this come next week with having reached out to constituents and getting feedback, but also having an idea of what positions you think can be split and why? I'm especially curious if cabinet could talk about this and kind of figure out what their recommendation is, just so that we don't spend an hour and a half in Senate debating which positions can be split. I think like if cabinet can succinctly present where it will work and where it probably won't, we can have a little bit of discussion, but I think that'll make it easier. And then I think
Any further comments or questions? If not, we will move on to the next item on the agenda. All right, then moving on, the next item is the North Campus Senator reports. All right, so we'll start with Senator Grinnell.
Yeah, so this week outside of committee and Senate, the senators and the clusters kind of met up and started planning on an event for our constituents where we could answer some of the big questions that they've been having about SGA, as well as possibly making it an event where we can create something to show our appreciation for FM workers. So we know there's like cards being done for like people in D Hall, but we're thinking of maybe doing a card in addition to some other things. But yeah, so we've been sending out emails, seeing what times work best, food preferences, and yeah.
Are there any questions on this report? Let's see, oh yes? Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next, Senator Chiso.
Yeah, so my Senator project I decided to do was just working on making fitness center more inclusive. I know a lot of people who are not athletes, especially who are like not cishet white men, have had a lot of not so good experiences in the fitness center. Some of the things I've done, I've worked with QAA a lot, which is Queer Athletes and Allies, because they also have decided that's going to be like something they're going to start working on. So we like sent out a poll, which is apparently a whole ordeal because it's supposed to be like people sending out polls, and then just kind of gotten some feedback on that, and then we're working on some other stuff. If anyone has like any other ideas that they, or like experiences that they have with incentives that they want to share with me, I would love to hear that. And then working on planning the event with Steve and Carlos.
Any questions? Senator Teaser? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the next. Senator Pietruseta.
Yeah, so besides working with Stephen and Kelly on the project agreement that Stephen talked about, I'm doing, as a senator project, quasi through Connecting Melons, these murals. The middle school and elementary school need a lot of painting or retouching on murals, but also just in general in the building. And so they asked for like 10 college volunteers to come in and help do the repainting. So we have about 7 to 8, and we're going on Tuesday to meet the nurse, and then we'll probably start painting throughout the rest of the semester. And then the other thing was, I've been thinking of ways to let more people in Canada, more constituents in Canada, like know who their senators are. Like this past weekend, I had a bunch of people who I just like kind of met, like, oh wait, aren't you our senator? When I like introduce myself, because they just like recognize, I guess, my name, like, or something like that. But I felt like it might be better, maybe it's through the pictures actually, but just different ways of exposing like all 3 of us to our constituents. Yeah, pretty much it.
Are there any questions, comments? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to Senator Calder.
Yeah, so Soccerton and others, there's a recipe submission site. It's like now up online. I have the, like how to get it. It's like Grinnell share under the offices, and then it's like under dining services, and it's like in the middle. And like, for me it didn't work, but they said that it's working now. But like basically, it's just like the requirements you needed for like submitting a recipe to dining hall, which is really great because they're really trying to help out in that sense. Please, if you are free Monday or Wednesday this week from 3:45 to 4:15, I would love that because I have class till 3:50. I mean, yeah. So about that, the poster, yeah. That is all.
Any questions? Yes.
There's a link on the agenda to sign up for ticket.
Yeah, let's do that. Or talk to me after this. Yay!
Any questions or comments? All right. Next, Senator Ahari. To Senator Goswami.
Yeah, so I was on Aids and Tech committees, and I highly recommend that you let your constituents know that tech committee is a thing, and it's like, and for anyone who's interested, it's like pretty interesting to show up, and you get to hear what's going on with like the college's initiatives on the tech side. Like for example, you know, they're digitizing room draw from I think next year, or they're planning to, and a lot of other like interesting things they're planning around campus, like renovations in terms of like tech aspects basically. So yeah, so you should know about it, you should tell your constituents. And so yeah, my center project was to put a water well filler in Smith because it did not have one. And so I met with Khadija a couple of times. I kept spamming Chris Bear of FM. And finally last week the filter was installed, so it was fun, it was nice. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yes.
When is tech committee?
It's once a month, and Abby sends out.
So to like get involved, you just have to email.
Yeah.
Yes.
Two questions. Did you get the regular water filler that's around campus?
Yeah, the ones that's in like every residence hall.
I'm just curious, how much did it cost?
I don't know. So basically, it was just like a water bottle, like the fountain was there, and I said that neither Smith or Smith Annex, they don't have any fillers, like filling stations. So I said if you could just like replace that with a proper filling station, so they just did that. Yeah.
Other questions or comments? Yes.
Congratulations on
Thanks.
getting that installed. I know that's not easy.
Any further questions or comments? All right, so now we'll move on to Senator Technical Advisor. Technical Advisor, all right.
So printers in the husk are completely operational now. There was some confusion about that. People just, I think, didn't know where they were or were unsure about how to add printers, so I sent out an all-student email about that. Last semester, there was a student initiative that passed to get access to the Adobe Creative Cloud suite for all students. So I talked to the Chief Information Officer about it. He looked into it, and it's just not feasible. It would be $100,000 a year and require management like per license. So like there are other ways you can access that stuff. I'm pretty sure that technology is available on the computers in the D Lab. Anyways, I've been told that the AV team has worked out the problems with getting web checkout for SGA. So I just need to send a few emails, put some people in contact with each other, and we'll be able to have web checkout for the SGA inventory finally. IT is soon to spin a development up into a project that would, so when you create a student group under SGA, you have the option to check a box if you want a email account for your group. And it'll be like some variant of the club name at grinnell.edu. So this project is, you could check another box and you would have clubname.sites.sga.grinnell.edu, and you would have a just a WordPress template that you could fill and put your club information on. There were just, we had to wait a while on just web governance committee meeting and deciding on policies like who's going to be responsible for content. So hopefully that'll be here for next year's when they work on that over the summer. Regarding paper complaints, especially in dorm printers, I talked to the CIO about this as well, and with the suggestion from some of the members of the technology committee, we're going to get the keys to the paper cabinets that are in the dorms to RLCs, so there will be more than one person, other than like the person who goes around weekly or whatever on the weekends and checks on the paper levels in the dorm printers. Soon we're going to get our own clicker set, so we won't have the occasional mismanagement of the clicker set by the faculty meeting or whatever that meets on Mondays and just makes a mess of it. So DD is going to be completely like rebuilt because the language that it's built on is like really old and no longer receives security updates, so we basically can't do anything with it without compromising the security. So as part of their putting together recommendations for the new system, I've already relayed requests from Technology Committee for ClinJuneDB to include optional gender pronouns, in addition to having SGA status and office hours, also having community advisor status so people can search for community advisors by floor cluster, as well as professor office hours, just because people just lose their syllabus day one and they're not all on UWeb. So if you've got suggestions for inclusions in the new version of BB, email me, come to my office hours, just talk to me. Yeah, that's all. Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 11 to noon at the Grill. A lot of times it's more like 11:15 to 12.
Sorry, on the pronouns thing, so people will be able to go in individually and just edit that themselves on TV, or?
I'm not sure what the exact, what exactly people would do to update them. I'm not sure if it would be just orally, you can kind of change out your password, or if you would have to, I don't know, where that registry would be. But it would be an opt-in thing. It wouldn't be displayed. Yeah, Matt?
To that point, the rollout as we initially planned it was that when people do arrival confirmations would be the first thing to have the opportunity to put that in, and it'd obviously be optional. And then if at any point it changes throughout the time that student is on campus, I'm trying to remember, I think it's through the registrar. It'd be tied to the same process where you get a new P card and you change your preferred name. So it's through the same avenue. So it's been like a year since I've worked on this now, but this is something, it was, the plan that we came up with was Mari's idea. And so just kind of like integrating those two together when you change your preferred name on PP or you can also do that.
Are there any further comments or questions on the technical advisor report? Yes.
Could you briefly tell us where the clinics are in the husk, and are the computers in the husk that you can directly print from, or is it only Bluetooth?
All of that is outlined in my Friday email to all students. I deleted it from my inbox maybe, but no, I didn't. There's one in the South Pavilion, 3rd floor, south end of the river. Do you want me to read them off? Like, there you go. Yeah. I mean, okay.
A student also made a map of all the printers on campus, including their names, the room that they're in, and if they're color black and white or 3D. And this link is the most important thing that I have as a person. So if you want me to send that to you or anyone else, you send it to me, please. Yeah. Dylan, do you want me to send it to you?
Yeah, if you just want to reply all to the.
Type. See that.
Any further questions or comments? The technical advisor report. Seeing none, we will move on to the cabinet report. Casey Welch.
I have nothing to add to this, except that South Campus Seminary, John Lennon, you said you're coming up for meetings and reports during this coming week.
Yes.
Can you talk about your meeting?
Definitely, sorry.
With whom?
Angela Maynard? Yeah. So we got an update on the status of Shaw with Eric Wood leaving. He did leave. They seemed to think it was not, he just didn't feel a very fit. They said they'll have someone hired certainly by the end of the year. I assume that meant academic year. Yeah, and then we talked about staff turnover more generally at the college. They think it's they think it's probably not worse at Grinnell than it is at colleges in the nation as a whole. They are doing things like they started meeting with staff council. They like ombuds is another thing that was a recent addition to the college, that office. So there's that. Yeah, they're doing more like qualitative studies of why staff leave, and like for those staff that don't leave or who thought about leaving but stayed, why did they stay? Things like this. Regarding the Macfield construction, I believe the big thing we got out of that was that they're going to look into either like adding a ramp to some part of into the JRC that's like not the part facing the like south and east campus, so that there's like more of an option to get into the JRC for people using wheelchairs. Yeah, if anyone else from Kevin wants to add anything.
Yes.
Wait, can you explain the ramp? I was just confused where that would be.
Yeah. Sagitan, do you want to explain that?
Okay, so apparently even Kingston and Blues didn't know that there's a ramp on the west corner of the GRC. That's like the one ramp on the west side of the GRC, which I pushed someone up on the one day before and they blocked it off. They didn't know that was blocked. And I told the Newhouse and sent a pretty annoyed email to a bunch of people, but they didn't do anything about it, so they said that they would do something about it. In terms of solutions, like I just suggested a simple like makeshift ramp. Like you could have like a sort of a flat plank or something. I've seen that done before on one of the stairs or something, so that it's more accessible. They said they would look into it and wrote something in their notebook. I cannot comment on their ability to come through on these things. So that's where we're at.
Either comments or questions on the AC report? See none, we'll move on to the percentage coordinator report.
The only thing I will add is in my meeting with Shaniri about the Restorative Justice Committee, I'm actually really, really excited about this. We're talking about, it's just like a committee that will be composed of invited students, faculty, and staff that Shaniri will lead, and there will also be a subcommittee, and we're hoping to bring a restorative justice group from Skidmore College to campus to kind of assess Grinnell College's restorative practices in regards, because we've seen over the past couple of years there have been issues with conflict and just like how we as a community address conflict, like for example with the union or the BCC being threatened to close, things like that. I'm really excited about it, just to have like a larger discussion surrounding this. Yeah, I think that's it. The survey, please boost the survey. I'm really excited about that. I'm hoping it'll go out by Monday or Tuesday.
Any questions, comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next report from the treasurer who's not here. And so if there are any questions, you can email SGA Money. And next, Assistant Treasurer Weber.
So, just in regard to like the emailing SGA Money, like you can, or you can just email me. Actually, I would prefer that you just email me. It's either going to get forwarded to me or Quincy to stress about it. So I'll just take his emails for this week as well. Yeah, I don't really have anything to add to my tab report. It was kind of a blur. If you have specific questions, I can like probably answer those, but also like I don't remember what I did last week. So yeah.
Any questions? Yes.
For like forward in the emails, do you mean like for like senators or just everyone?
I mean, like it's not like a huge deal. It's just like, I don't know. Just if you know, like, just email it to me.
Further questions or comments? All right, seeing none, the next is supposed to be mine, but as presiding, I'm not going to. Please ask me afterwards or send me an email at BPA1. And President Becker, any questions? All right, seeing none, PPSA Tumbu asked me to tell you all that the pathway from the JRC to the Bear will remain open, and the new construction that's happening on Macfield is a new pathway leading to Harris / connecting the pathway to the Bear from the commencement stage. And there will also be light poles and step lights and benches placed along the pathway for accessibility and safety. If you have any questions, please email VPSA. Up next, Concerts Chair Christensen.
Yeah, we had a really great show on Saturday, yesterday. It was a lot of fun working with the artists. We actually had Sen Morimoto and Namdi are part of Kaina's band, and they've, Namdi's performed here like probably like 7 times now or something as part of various groups. So it was good to see them again. I feel like it went off well. We have, I think, probably what's going to be our biggest concert this Friday. It's Pictoria Vark opening for Thin Lips, opening for Camp Cope, which the Grinnell podcast is trying to do an interview with them, I think. They're an Australian band. I'm really excited to see them. What else is new with concerts? Oh, our green room is not moldy anymore, and it's nice, and we're gonna start decorating it. And yeah, I've just started the process of training Fit in Victoria. That's going on.
Any questions on the Constance Chair report? Seeing none, we'll move on to the services coordinator.
Only thing is, civic engagement committee is happening 2 weeks from Thursday again. We're starting to change the policy on political activity on campus. It would be great to have input from all you guys. Otherwise, it will be like 3 students working with admin, which is kind of rough.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, the last thing is the motion to adjourn, for which I need a second. President Becker. And all those in favor of the motion to adjourn, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you all.